The Florida Gators should handedly beat the Florida State Seminoles this week. No crossover Thursday because of the holiday. We're doing it a little earlier here on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another crossover of Locked On Seminoles and Locked On Gators. I am Brian Smith and joined by Brandon Olsen of Locked On Gators. Going to talk about the big game this weekend, injury report here in just a minute. Some of the good news, bad news for both teams because they've obviously not met expectations this year, although it is obvious Florida is trending way better than FSU. So once again, Brandon, thank you for coming on the show. First off, let's jump right in with the obvious. DJ Lagway played pretty well the last couple of weeks, but he didn't throw a ton. I think part of that is he's been banged up. I think that's well known. Any update or any thoughts about DJ Lagway's health? Is he injured or is he just kind of beat up? Where do you sit on this?
I think that he's trending toward being perfectly fine at this point. I know that the reporting of the injury was. Yes, I think they just fumbled that, honestly. He got carted off, and then at halftime, Billy Napier's like, "Oh yeah, it's a significant injury." And then Monday morning's press conference comes around, and he's like, "Oh, it's not nearly as bad as we thought. Grade 2 issue, it's fine." And then the next week, it's like, "Oh, it's actually just a bone bruise," which is just I don't know how you go from a soft tissue injury to a bone bruise like that. That's very weird to me. Regardless, DJ looks healthier. He hasn't used his legs a ton, but I think it's because he's been using his legs to extend plays, not to scramble. Against LSU, I don't think he got sacked a single time. He was pressured a lot, but wasn't sacked a single time.
It was 0 against them.
Yeah, wasn't sacked a single time, was pressured a lot, but he's able to just extend plays with his legs, by a little bit of time. And then against Ole Miss, he was sacked a few times, pressured a good deal of times, but used his legs again to extend plays. He scrambled for a first down a couple of times, and I think that the Ole Miss game, while not statistically his best game, I think the Ole Miss game might have been the best game of his career so far, just in terms of taking the next step. I think one of my big issues with him was he would almost never take the check down. He would almost never take just what's given to him. He was always looking for the deep shot. And that's not sustainable. And Ole Miss isn't going to let you do that. And so he did what he needed to do. He took what was underneath available. He took what he could with his legs. And I think it was his best game as a quarterback so far.
I think that he looked a little more comfortable because a couple of those throws, especially earlier in the game when he had the guy at his feet or like making contact with him, I knew DJ had a strong arm, but it takes a lot of confidence to make those throws in the first place. It could have been very easy for him to just punt on that, take the sack, or throw it in the dirt. It's a little risky, but his arm strength overwhelmed the ability for the Ole Miss player to get him to the ground. I thought he did a nice job. I know he's got a long way to go in development overall, but I thought that was a major step for DJ Lagway. Let me ask you this. Do you think that DJ will be let loose a little bit more? Because he's only throwing around like 17 to 20 passes right now. Their run game's good, but it's not unreal by any stretch. Do you think they're just trying to avoid turnovers, play it safe? Billy's historically more of a run-first guy. He's not ever hid from that. Do you think he'll get to throw it more if he is, like you think, healthier?
I think they might. I think a lot of it is kind of taking what's available. I think against Ole Miss, you have to run the football and establish yourself running the ball there. And so I feel like that needed to be done. LSU's run defense this year has been horrendous for much of the year.
Yes, it has.
Yeah, so it makes a lot of sense to just go, hey, we're going to go out there and run the ball. But this is one of the games where Florida State's pass defense has been worse than their run defense. And so I feel like this might be the game where if you're going to turn them loose, because I think ideally what Florida wants to do with DJ Lagway in a lot of games is maybe don't make him throw the ball a ton, but let him throw the ball deep freely. You look at the Kentucky game, which was the first game.
Oh, he killed it in that game.
Yeah, he did 7 completions, 260 yards because he was just flinging it downfield. And so I think you look at that kind of game is something that they're fine with. That they're like, hey, if we can create explosives, go out there and stop, we're good with it. And so if they can run the ball and generate explosives in the passing game, I think they're perfectly content with that, at least for the remainder of this season. Next year, we'll talk about, really expanding the offense and all that. But for right now, I think they're content with saying, hey, if we throw the ball 15, 20 times a game, but we're completing our deep shots and we're picking up what we can and we're getting first downs, moving the ball and scoring points, I don't think they care that much, honestly. As I think they've resigned to the fact of do what wins you football games. And I think that's been one of the steps that this Florida Gators coaching staff as a whole has taken from the start of the season until now, is that they're just do what wins you football games, and they're taking advantage there. And if they can do that against Florida State, I think DJ Lagway will be looking for the deep ball plenty. Also, important note, Elijah Badger, 222 yards away from being the first 1,000-yard receiver in over 20 years at the University of Florida. So just saying, I'm looking for the deep shot with Elijah Badger if I'm DJ.
Well, he's a good player, so I'm not really surprised by that. Let me throw up a few stats here that you were kind enough to send to me before the show began. I'm going to present for those of you on the YouTube, and I'll discuss them as we go through this. This is a very unique look at this game, in my opinion. So take it for what it's worth. But the name of the website, Game on Paper, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Just gives it like a basic overview. If you want to go ahead and just kind of throw the stats through there, you're better at this than me because this is you're doing. Brandon, go ahead and throw it out there.
Yeah. So when you're looking at what we have here is Florida's offense versus Florida State's defense. The EPA per pass for is actually at 0.0, which means on average when they throw the ball, they're not scoring anything. EPA per rush is on average 0.04 points, which means every run they gain 0.04 points. Available yards, Florida's been very bad at picking up the available yards. Florida State's been worse in terms of allowing them. Right. Third down success rate, look, Florida has not been good on third downs. So that's going to be a true battle there of the third and fourth downs there, because they are both horrendous. Yeah, 115 and 114. It's the movable object versus the stoppable force over there. It's just going to be a train wreck on the on third downs there for Florida. But Florida State's just been purple bad. If you're watching this on YouTube, purple is a bad number to have, and there's a lot of purple for Florida State. This is a team that's just right now, and I love to say this, I do. I feel like I'm not even talking trash when I say this is a team that right now is just horrible. And that's evident by looking at all the purple they have there. It's very bad for Florida State. It's very bad to be Florida State right now. And Florida is not a perfect team. They're not a great team right now. They're playing really good football right now, and their numbers would be a lot better if they didn't have that first month of the season. But yeah, this is just a bad Florida State team. You cut the film, you look at the numbers, and Florida State's bad. And I think that never a good sign. You can cut the film and the numbers, and they can tell you some different things sometimes. When they work in sync and they both stay bad, that's not a good sign if you're Florida State, especially defensively. They've just been a train wreck right now.
Just because it's interesting, I'll flip it over. I mean, Florida State's offense, it's starting over now because Luke Kromenhoek is the quarterback. I think it's kind of obvious he's the future. But he played one game, and it's against Charleston Southern. These are goofy, but like you said, purple bad. Looking at the numbers for FSU, they do not have a stat that is better than 108.
Yep,
that's almost impossible to be that bad.
They don't even have white. It's just all purple.
It's unbelievable. Where do you feel most comfortable right now based on injuries, everything else, with Florida's defense? Is it D-line, linebacker, or the secondary?
Honestly, I don't think it's a single unit. I mean, the defensive line's been playing really well, but I think right now what makes the defense play as well as they've been playing is that they're playing in sync. That it's them just playing complementary defense. It's coverage holding off for at least just a little bit long enough for the pass rush to get in. But if I'm Florida State, I'm looking at 88 on Florida's defense, Caleb Banks, and I'm seeing the guy that has generated 15 pressures in the past 2 weeks against LSU and Ole Miss, 4 sacks in that time, if I'm not mistaken. He's just playing like a man possessed right now. And for a Florida State offensive line that has not been good.
They gave up 3 sacks in the first half to Charleston Southern.
Yeah, look, Florida's defensive line, I feel pretty good about in this game. And I feel like you should feel pretty good about Florida's defensive line right now. They've been playing good football. and they've got a great matchup in this game, especially against a freshman too. Not exactly confidence bringing if you're Florida State here. Not exactly.
I said it yesterday on my podcast. For the Noles to do anything offensively, two things got to happen. They've got to hit the deep ball when it's there. They can't drop it, et cetera, and they've got to hit some screens. And to do that second part, I wouldn't be surprised, and I know it's a rivalry game, so this wouldn't be shocking, if they threw out some new plays, formationally, et cetera, for screens. Because, again, Florida's not the greatest tackling team, and Florida State, one thing they do not lack is athleticism at the skill spots. Got a lot of young guys, especially, that are very talented, Hakeem Williams, and you can throw in somebody like Tofioli, whatever. They can throw to a lot of guys. But if those two things do not both work, I think the offense will struggle. I know they need to run for 4 yards a carry, especially on first downs. I need to see it to believe it. But Florida's D-line has been inconsistent until late. It's hard to say what Florida team shows up. But right now, I would say that's an edge to UF. I don't believe just because Kromenhoek's back there, the offensive line is going to be better. It's, in my opinion, the worst Power 4 offensive line in the country. That's my opinion. Prove me wrong. All right. Well, thank you for breaking some of that down because, to be honest with you, that is a really unique scenario to talk about with all the different stuff that you can look at. EPA, something I've just started learning about, but it is pretty interesting. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the Noles and the Gators. Have you downloaded the Game Time app yet? Game Time allows you to get tickets to concerts, to movie theaters, to plays, NBA. You can go check out the Florida State and Florida game. I was on the Game Time app recently. There are tickets for under $200 in several different locations inside Doak Campbell Stadium. So that's an opportunity. And there's also something they have if you want to look for something outside the box called Game Time Picks. It filters out all the flop so you can see great deals on a lot of different things without doing a lot of searching, and it saves you time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Where are you most concerned for Florida, whether it's the Florida State game or anything else, where you're like, I don't like where this is trending, or it's just been trending for a long time? What's your biggest concern?
Honestly, for the Florida State, and I feel like I'm going to regret this, but for the Florida State game, I think right now they're just playing so bad that I don't have too many of those concerns of where things are trending. I think right now Florida's peaking at the right time. The issue is that they didn't play well enough to start the year to have themselves in college football playoff contention. Because if you're in college football playoff contention and you're peaking toward the end of the year, that's where you want to be. Unfortunately, they kind of crapped the bed to start the year with multiple blowout losses at home, and that's just never a good thing for the Gators there. But I think right now, I look at if people stay healthy, I think you're one injury away from things getting really bad. Like the secondary's been so banged up where you've got 3 or 4 guys playing every single snap that you can for the past 2 games. That's not a spot you want to be in. Last week, you had Jordan Castell, Triquez Bridges, Bryce Thornton, Deshaun Johnson, and Sharif Denson all play 75 snaps, and you were only on the field for 79 snaps. Jordan Castell and Triquez Bridges played all 79. Bryce Thornton was off the field for 1 snap. Deshaun Johnson was off the field for 4 snaps, and Sharif Denson was off the field for 4 snaps. You're in a rough spot in the secondary. We don't know Aaron Gates' injury status. He got hurt in the second play of the game against Ole Miss, did not come back in. Billy Napier said that we'll get an update for that probably Wednesday night. But this is just not a good spot to be in terms of you're 1 injury away from things getting really bad in the secondary. I mean, you're playing guys that right now we're not expected to be your major contributors, and they're playing damn near every snap. So I think that's one thing where rivalry games get kooky. Florida secondary is 1 injury away from being really bad, and if you get into that spot, things can get a bit rough. And they're playing damn good football right now. Like the past 2 games, they've been playing really well, but 1 injury away from things getting ugly.
Help me understand this. Thornton, the safety you mentioned a minute ago, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, last game he had 14 tackles and 2 picks. Where in the world did that come from? I mean, he's a good football player, but that's like other world. Has he had any other games like that where you're like, okay, this guy's got a chance to get paid, or is this kind of a one-off?
Yeah, I think he's going to be really good. I look at last year, it was the Vanderbilt game. It was like his first start. He played damn well. Earlier this year, he played really well against UCF, which, I mean,
they're not very good, but I get it.
To be fair, that's UCF. I thought his LSU game was pretty decent considering he was on the field for damn near 100 snaps. Played pretty decent, and that level is fine. He's had some bad games. I think Texas was really bad for him. But for the most part, he's had flashes. It's just about putting it together consistently. And that's what we haven't really seen from him yet, of doing it consistently. I think one of the changes also is that they're moving him around a lot right now. He's playing deep safety. He's playing box safety. He's playing in the slot at times. He's moving all around. I think that benefits him. He's not a big guy. He's 5'10", 210. But he's versatile and he's very smart. That's his thing. He's the brain.
That works.
Yeah, he's a very smart. I don't think he's got the elite measurables. He's smart as hell back there.
Okay, well, that's why I ask you that, because I know Florida State's going to have to take shots. I've said it all year, and I will continue to say so. Florida State against anybody is not going to just run it 4 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards, kind of like Florida's offense, and get down the field. Not many teams really do it very well at all, to be honest with you. So if he is playing at a high level again against Florida State, that would cause FSU a lot of problems, in my opinion. They need at least one play where they scheme it open, and that happens even against a quality defense. But they probably also need oh, wow, look at this. We just ran a post route, and the safety bailed. They need a freebie, for lack of a better. I mean, that can happen on a punt block or anything else. That's certainly possible. But Florida secondary, as we talked about before this show, plays of 20 or more yards in the passing game given up, they are 132nd out of 134 teams in the FBS. They are garbage. I mean, it is unbelievable how a team that has that many 4- and 5-star players is this bad. I don't understand it. I know you don't either, but that's the reality. The one thing that Kromenhoek does well, and I've known him since he was a sophomore in high school, is he throws a deep ball very, very well. I'm not saying he's quite as good as DJ. DJ throws about as well as anybody I've ever seen at this age, but he's not far off. If FSU hangs around, I have a feeling that Thornton and those guys didn't get it done on the back end, and it could just be a quarters coverage where a corner got smoked on a fade ball too. But the safeties for Florida are going to be a very big part of this. Do you think early in the game they will play a lot of box safety and try to force Kromenhoek, or what do you think they're going to do? Because I don't think Florida State can run the ball consistently against a 6-man box, personally. What is your take?
If I'm Florida, I would go pretty light in the box, and I would dare you to run the ball. I'd be like, go ahead, run the damn thing. God, if you can beat us running the ball, then beat us running the ball, but limit explosive plays. I mean, I know that the Florida Gators defense, I think we're at a weird spot where the Florida Gators defense played so bad early in the year, and now they're playing better, where Florida Gators fans are frequently thinking, oh, this is an elite defense all of a sudden. And it's simply not. I mean, you look at last week, Trey Harris had a 43-yard touchdown. Daquan Wright had a 30-yard catch. Antoine Wells, or Juice Wells, had a 25-yard catch. Jordan Watkins had a 25-yard catch. Caden Lee had a 23-yard catch. 5 passes that went 20-plus yards. And it's not just getting beat on the deep ball. It's, you throw a screen to a receiver, he catches it and runs by everybody. The Texas game. But last week, Trey Harris's touchdown, which was his only catch of the game before he got injured, of course, was quarters coverage, gets inside Deshaun Johnson, and Bryce Thornton led him behind him. And so Bryce Thornton, who played a great game last week, had that one busted coverage that led to a massive touchdown. And that Florida's given up those big play touchdowns before. So it's possible. Like, if you're going to take deep shots, take deep shots. But if I'm Florida, I'm going, hey, we're going to run our 3-man line that I know a lot of Florida Gators fans hate. We're going to go tight. We're going to have our linebackers behind them. Our star and our box safety are ready to go if they need to, but they're spread out a bit, and we're going to lighten the box and make you run the football and try to beat us that way, because I really don't think Florida State's capable of winning an FBS game by running the football right now.
It's so weird because they've got really talented running backs, but you got to block. So, I mean, Toafili is going to play in the NFL. He's kind of like And Cam Davis, when he's healthy, is not a guy you want to get in front of, et cetera. They have talent. But I just think they're going to be better served to run the ball a little bit on first down. I think they're going to have to run Luke. He's a pretty good athlete. He's not like super twitchy laterally, but he can run. They're going to have to run RPO, might mix in some option and try to get some plays off that, maybe do a play action pass after they've run option or anything, something like that, throw Florida off. Because I agree. I think they can run it for a little while, but Florida will start mixing and matching when they drop the safety in, when they show it, then they bring it out after the snap. I don't think Luke is ready for that. And I think he'll be susceptible to turnovers. It's just my opinion. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the game situations when Florida and Florida State can take advantage of the other team. That's next here on Locked On Seminoles. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Where do you think Florida will make the biggest hay against Florida State's defense? Do you think they're going to have more success with Montrell? Is it play action? I still don't think they'll run DJ much. He's capable, but he had 9 yards negative last week and 0 against LSU. They're going to try to protect. They don't have another quarterback. Like if he got hurt in the first quarter, Florida State would win this game. I'm totally convinced of that. But you can't ever lose your quarterback any team. So what do you think? Are they going to come out and just play ground and pound, play field position? I kind of see Billy doing that. And then obviously DJ takes some shots.
Yeah, I think that Florida's going to they've had a few games where I think they take a similar approach to it this time, where their run game kind of comes down to we're going to run counter, we're going to run split zone, and we're going to pick up yardage. And they've had that really successfully. You look at most of their wins this season, and it comes when they run a lot of counter, a lot of split zone, get defenses coming in and flying down and take deep shots. And Florida State's allowed a lot of big plays as well. Sure. They are not a good. 10% of passing plays against Florida State are explosive passing plays. And so I think that you look at that and you say, oh, well, that's how you got to take your shots. Which, by the way, the same percentage as Florida. They are both 10% of passing plays against them go for 20 plus. And so I think that, but I think when you look at Florida and you go, well, they've got the better offensive line in this game. They've got the better quarterback in this game. DJ Lagway is one of the best true freshman quarterbacks in the country, one of the best deep ball throwers in the country at any level. And I think you look at Florida State's defense that has given up quite a few big plays, and you go, all right, well, you've got to take those shots. And I think that DJ Lagway feels very comfortable taking those deep shots. And I think that we've seen him check out of plays before. It wouldn't shock me if he got a look that he liked and he was like, all right, well, we're going to take a deep shot. You're playing single high. I'm throwing this ball deep and you're going to have to beat us there. And I think that's where Florida, I think that's where they'll eat up a lot. Explosive plays has kind of been their thing. You know, they're not on the field long. They haven't had long sustaining drives. I haven't looked at the numbers for the Ole Miss game, but against LSU, they had 9 full drives. Only 2 of them were more than 5 plays. Only 2 of them were more than 4 minutes. They're scoring quickly with deep shots and explosive plays. And I think Florida's going to continue looking to do that against a defense in Florida State that has allowed that in the air. They haven't allowed many long rushing plays, but in the air, they're available freely.
I think so too. I think Florida, Surtain, the DB coach, obviously he's a famous player. His kid's a really good player in the NFL. I still think they're going to play a lot of man and try to force things. That's just what they do. Corner is not their concern. Azariah Thomas is going to play in the NFL. He's a very talented kid. The other corner spot, I'm not sure if Ventrell's going to play. Didn't do that with it. Quindarius is a kid out of Mississippi. He's a sophomore that nobody else wanted besides Florida State. He ended up being good last year, so they found a guy. But how does the nickel spot work? Are they going to use the tight ends? Florida doesn't normally throw to them. That's an advantage for FSU. I think they might try to take away Badger in some cases, play single high, and try to force Florida to run into 7 guys. That's my guess. In critical passing situations, they might try to do that. And they'll probably come out. I mean, they're going to come after DJ. They're going to try to hit him and get him out of his rhythm. I mean, that's a news flash. That's not really a news flash because freshman quarterbacks get blitzed. The other thing they'll probably do just every now and then, because again, they're a man deep. They might throw cover 4 or something at them and change it after the snap, but that's not their MO. I'm curious if they mix that up. It's the Gators. It's a rivalry game, and you got nothing to lose. You've won 2 games. They might throw something completely out of the realm because they need a free touchdown in this game to win, to even have a chance. Because I think Florida's about I think they're 2 touchdown favorite. That's about spot on with exactly where I would put it. I think they should win by 10 to 17 point, that range. That's pretty much where I'm at. I don't know what you think, but that's my feeling. The last thing I'll say about Florida State's defense, does the D-line show up on every play? And this is something that drives me bananas. When they played against Carolina, then Notre Dame, 2 quality teams that got NFL talent running back, there were plays if the ball didn't come to the side of a certain player, they would immediately loaf. And we're talking about the first quarter. That can't happen. That cannot happen. If you do that against Montrell and Jaden Ball, it'll be 2nd and 1 all day. Then this game could be 42-10. The effort that Florida State shows is probably the biggest thing for me. If you get beat because the offensive line stinks this weekend, it wouldn't shock me. It's not acceptable, but it is what it is. If they get beat due to effort, I will go off on this podcast. The post-game show will be epic. This is a rivalry game. It's for a lot of players, their last contest in a Noles uniform. You need to play hard on every snap. So any parting shots for you, Brandon?
If you want to go blitz DJ Lagway, you go blitz DJ Lagway because he's statistically better when he's blitzed.
I know, I saw that.
Yeah,
that's just what Florida State does.
That's fine. Go ahead, blitz him. He extends plays with his legs, and he'll find someone deep downfield, and he'll beat the crap out of you doing it. So he's got a higher completion percentage, more yards per attempt. He's better by every metric when you blitz him. So
part of it is with that, it's man coverage when you blitz most of the time.
Yep.
NFL blitzes zone. It gets a little more complex. You don't see that as much in college. Highly doubt FSU is going to do that a lot. But if they do, they got some tall line. They need to get a deflection or something out of it and get a pick 6. They'll hit some of them. You've got to get a touchdown based on your blitzes. If not, Florida's going to win going away. Yeah, I open-endedly admit that. But you have to be who you are, too. So they're not a zone team. That's not their MO. You're not going to change that in game 12. I mean, I get it. So I'm curious to see what DJ does because I think they'll get him on the ground a few times and they'll hit him. Key is if they don't do it early in the game and he gets any kind of rhythm and Florida can run or pass on first down, then it's a major problem. You've got to get him uncomfortable. If not, Florida State does not have a chance in this game.
Yeah, if you don't do it, then it's belt to ass. Simple as that.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, for Brandon Olsen, I am Brian Smith. Thank you for checking this out. I am happy to see everybody at Locked On Seminoles each and every day. Same thing for Brandon at Locked On Gators. Everybody have a good one. I will talk to you soon.